Sasquatch, Bigfoot, Grassman. In the South, they call it skunk ape, wood booger, or rougarou. And across the globe, yeti, yowie, and yeren, to name a few. More than 30 Native American tribes have a name for the beast. Some as endearing as Big Brother, or as ominous as Boss of the Mountain. They've been depicted on the walls of caves for centuries. To date, there are over 11,000 reported sightings of these creatures in North America alone. There is an abundance of physical, empirical, and anecdotal evidence supporting the existence of these seemingly human primates, yet it is still considered a myth. Our focus is not to research or try to prove Bigfoot exists, but to document the findings and experiences of Bigfoot researchers and everyday people like ourselves. Joined by my wife and co-host Linda and field producer Scott Owens, we will travel the country, interviewing, taking expedition, and visiting the locations where their Bigfoot Odyssey began, bringing to you their means, observations, and interactions with the man-like beast known as Bigfoot. I'm Kerry Arnold, and this is Bigfoot Odyssey.
Hi, I'm Linda Arnold, co-host of Bigfoot Odyssey and Kerry's wife. What you're about to see is a full account of what happened to Kerry in the South Mississippi woods in the spring of 2007. It's nothing short of terrifying. We will show you where it happened and take you through every heart-pounding moment of his ordeal. You will hear his chilling testimony as to what happened to him that day, which not only affected him emotionally, but kept him out of the woods for over 10 years. This is where it started, a true awakening and rebirth into a reality where Sasquatch lives and breathes.
Not really a lot of talking on the drive up there for Scott and I. I think he kind of knew I was feeling a little bit of stress at the time. Pulling in, wasn't really nearly as nervous as I had been the first time we came. I was hiding it well. Still a lot of thoughts going through my head. Just being unsure of what was going on. Knew I wanted to be prepared. There was no way I was going in there without my gun and quite a bit of extra ammunition. Not that I was really scared anything was going to happen, but I was of the mind that I would rather have it and not need it. Now, almost every time I came here, I would hear the knocking. I would ride my four-wheeler from the house to here. All this was down to the ground. It was bare, like just sagebrush. And I would park my four-wheeler right there. If I didn't drive all the way in, I'd park my four-wheeler here and walk in. And I can remember getting off my four-wheeler and hearing the knocking. And I mean, it was powerful. Like, pow, 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 with rhythm, 4 or 5 knocks, you know. But it kind of sounded like it was coming from the direction of the house. So I always, whenever I heard it, I was like, well, somebody's at the house beating on something, but they were always doing it. And realistically, there was no one up there knocking on anything. I think it was them letting everybody else know that I was on my way in.
When did this happen? What's the date?
It was March the 10th of 2007, and the reason I can remember the date so well is because it was my ex-father-in-law's birthday. So it always kind of stuck with me that day.
So would you say, and I'm sure a lot of people can relate to it, but your life before the encounter, would just give us a little rundown of your life before the encounter.
Well, before I put myself out in the woods for 300 days a year. I mean, I was just a regular go to work, you know, come home kind of guy. And then, you know, once 1999 hit, it just started going downhill. I mean, there were
Yeah, you had some rough.
9 people.
Some issues.
Yeah, 9 people that were very close to me, including both my parents, grandparents, my best friend.
Your brother too, right?
No.
No.
My brother passed in '08.
Okay.
But I mean,
9
might as well have
people.
been my brother. He was the last one, and you know, it's like one hit, and then the next, and the next. I mean, my parents were married for 42 years, and they passed away 4 months apart. You know, I was 26. Yeah, of course. I mean, I'm the youngest, so I'm the baby. But yeah, that was a very extremely confusing time. You know, they say that they come in threes. Well, mine came in threes 3 times.
3
And,
times
yeah,
3.
Yeah, in a 10-month period. So it wasn't a good time. So I just kind of
Right.
got away from everybody. You know, I forced myself out in the woods. I actually thought I got really lucky. You know, a friend of mine, and we happened to work together, was telling me about his grandfather having some property that nobody ever hunted on. You know,
Yeah.
the whole family lived up there, but nobody ever hunted it. So I had him fix me up with his grandfather. Went up there, met with him, and just the nicest people you'd ever want to meet. You know, and he said a lot of things then. He was about 82 at the time, and he wasn't going to take anything. I offered him half of everything I took out of
Right.
there, and he said, "Yeah, that'd be fine." You know, nobody else is going to hunt back there. And
That would never happen today with somebody of our generation. You know, it took an old guy to really
yeah, well,
bridge that gap. You know.
yeah, and I can remember him. We were talking one day about because there's no animals. They didn't have a dog, cat, nothing around.
Never had cats.
And never had chickens, nothing. He's like, and I remembered him telling me that they just didn't hang around.
Yeah.
You know, we couldn't get a dog.
He
to
didn't really think any place past that.
Not as far-
but he knew that.
As far as I know, he knew all about it, and he just never said anything to me. I mean,
okay.
he could have known everything.
Right.
I don't see how they could have lived there for as long as they did,
And
over
not
50 years,
know something.
and not know something. I mean, the knocking, the constant tree knocking that would go on.
Okay, so so you meet the old guy, you go in, you hunted that area for 7 years, right?
A little over, yeah, from
So-
late December of '99 to March of
Okay,
'07.
so the encounter happened like the last year, like in the 7th year that you had been going. So 6 years, each hunting season, you would go back, hunt deer, take deer out, nothing, blah, 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 or maybe something happened, like we're going to get into, that I know you didn't know what was going on.
Well, I was
So-
changing something or clearing something out every year.
Yeah,
You know,
always in
yeah.
there working.
In the summertime, or, you know, it was camping out, in there.
Putting food plots in for winter,
food
spring,
plots,
summer.
feeders, cameras.
Yeah.
I mean, cutting
The
trees.
whole 9 yards. Anybody that hunts seriously knows that it's a year-round prep cycle to keep deer in your area. So
Well, it was such a perfect habitat. I mean, you've seen the place.
yeah,
And
just gnarly.
Well, you know, it's got that.
Well, it's wilderness. It's really wild.
It is, and you know, topographically, it's like a 3-fingered hand
Yeah.
on the
And
ridges.
it ranges
and the long
from
bottom around.
200 to 400 feet in elevation. So that's
A lot of hills.
Yeah, a lot of
Yeah.
hills.
So there's a lot of good travel corridors, a lot of good places for animals to bed in, a lot of deciduous trees in the bottom, so you got a lot of hardwood, a lot of acorns, a lot of food. You know, they were doing fine before I ever came
Right.
along and fed them.
And the predator population was just as good
It
as
was,
the game.
yeah, a lot of fox, a lot of bobcats,
Some coyotes, stuff like that.
yeah.
Well, you want to kind of run down
Yeah.
what, I know that day, I mean, 6 years of hunting this place, man, you know it, here comes the 7th year, you're getting excited
Right.
for the hunting season.
Well, you know, I always hunted in the front of the property.
Yeah.
You know, they said it was 240 acres, but it always seemed like it was bigger than
Yeah,
that.
it's like that rectangle, kind of like an upside down
Right.
L or whatever.
Right, and I always hunted either in the front, up closer to the house, you know, still 400 or 500 yards.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
back,
it's still way.
but not way in the back. Well, what I was getting were bucks on camera, nice bucks, over 100-inch, fully mature 8-point, bucks that just were not coming out in the daytime. They would show up on camera 30 minutes after dark. So what I decided to do was I would take my tree climber and I would go way back down off in the bottom, so that way I can catch them while it's still daylight coming to the feeding area.
Yeah, it's a spot that I don't know much of yet.
Right. Well,
it's a hot spot.
It's a bad spot.
Yeah.
To get in and out of. But so I went off down in there, and that's what actually got me off into the back where I found the turkeys. And I'm in my tree climber, and I hunted until I just could not see anymore through my scope, and I could hear them walking. Turkeys walking through. I mean, they were everywhere. I couldn't see what it was. It was that dark, and then all of a sudden they get up to roost, and that just
once they fly up,
turkeys have really big wings, and they're extremely loud. And there was like 30 feet right beside me.
If you think quail scares you when you walk up, a bunch of turkeys getting up, it's just as bad.
Yeah, it was. It's a lot of commotion, but that was a light bulb moment. Hey. Now I know where the turkeys are, so I can set up and turkey hunt. Well, I had an area in mind that was close enough. I figured it was within 150 yards of that place. That was good and clear.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah, it had a few trees. It was on elevated ground. A lot of sagebrush, and also, come turkey season for me. It wasn't turkey season. March the 10th is not turkey season, but it was turkey season for me. I went to that area, and I think probably 5 days, for a whole week, I was out there doing something.
Right.
I burned the whole area off. It was sagebrush and, short grass. It wasn't what you see now. So I just walked all the way around and burned it. 5 days after that, when I finally got back out there, it was that morning. I believe it was a Saturday morning. It was either a Saturday or a Sunday. Because I always deer hunted in the afternoon after work. If it was in the morning, it was on the weekend because I wasn't working. So I know it was on the weekend. Walking in, I was really trying not to act like I had my head on a swivel, but I did. I had to stop and shoot in this one area because this is the spot. I didn't always get creeped out here, but if I ever got creeped out, it was in this one bottomy area. It's kind of swampy, or it used to be really swampy, and it had an ominous and foreboding feel to it. Now, walking into the beginning of that cleared area where I had turkey hunted for just the second time in 11 years, it wasn't really a nervous feeling, but I knew I was about to relive those moments of what happened to me that day. I'd gotten out there, and I'm fully camoed out. I parked my truck at the house, offload my four-wheeler, and I would just drive up to the beginning of the road,
right,
park, and walk the rest of the way.
And it's a dirt road that he's talking about. You take a back road to the dirt road.
Right, to go into the side, kind of the side of the property. And full camo. I had a net mesh over my face. I put black paint under my eyes, and I had the rim Ricondo style hat. I was hidden.
Ready to go.
Turkeys are not the smartest birds.
Just gotta be still.
Yeah, if they see you, it's over.
Movement.
Yeah, any kind of movement, and that's it. So when I had gotten some sagebrush and some berry bushes set up.
Yeah, something to kind of break up that outline,
right,
a little place to get in, stow away,
right,
hunker down. Okay.
So I sat down there and started calling, and I called for, I had a reed in my mouth, and I had a box call, and I had a locator. I was trying to sound like as many turkeys as possible.
Had it work?
Yeah, and I was trying to sound real sexy too, so I could get the big gobbler to come in.
The old Jezebel.
Right. Well, I hit the locator, you shake it, and it kind of sounds like a turkey gobbling. It's not exactly right, but I mean, it gets them to respond. I'd already had my berry bushes set up, you know, where I was going to sit. And you saw the spot. It was up the north side of the clearing, almost to the end. You know, where I sat. That way I would be able to see down that hill and be able to see them coming. And that's exactly what happened. Well, this is the spot. This is where the big pine tree was. And all of this right here was like this, except it was really dry and a lot of sage grass. So about 5 days before, I decided I was gonna turkey hunt here, because down there is where I ran into the turkeys. Probably 300 yards down into that bottom area. I came and I burned this whole area right here. I went all the way around and burned it to the inside. Got some really tall brush and put out, I think that was right here in this area, lined up where I could put my chair, sit down and get behind it and call. All this this ledge right here, it was about that thick, I guess, but there were more trees on the other side, and this drops off. It's like a 2-tier drop off down into the creek bottom. Well, that day I had got in here, and I think the sun wasn't really up good yet, and I sat down, got myself snacks, whatever, backpack out, my chair. I had a reed in my mouth, I had a box call, and I had a locator. The particular locator I had, you shake it, and when you shake it, it sounds like a turkey gobbling. And what they call that a locator is when you hit that, usually you'll get a gobbler, you know, respond to you. You know where they are, about how far away or whatever. And I probably sat here and called for a better part of 2 hours. And finally, whenever I started getting some action, I was getting some calls back, and they were coming. I could see there was a game trail, pretty wide. It was 4 feet wide, all the way down, and just it died into infinity to where the ridge, you know, cut off what you couldn't see anymore. And I could see turkeys coming all through the woods and up that game trail. And I'm getting kind of excited, you know. Well, when they get maybe 40 feet, I could just see heads popping up over the ridge. No big turkeys that I could tell. There were no big gobblers. It was a lot of jakes, young males, short beards, and a bunch of hens. It could at least 30, you know. And they're coming my way. Well, once they get maybe 30 or 40 feet from coming into the clear, they stop. And some of the ones in the front, I saw them just perk their head up and then gone. Every single one of them flew that way, like something was after them. There was no way they saw me, but nonetheless, I'm disappointed, aggravated. You know, turkeys, they're pretty loud whenever they're getting the heck out of somewhere. So that's all I was hearing. I could hear them, you know, for a while. And just about the time I couldn't hear them anymore, I could hear, coming from here, footsteps, walking. It sounded like somebody, it sounded like 2 legs. So I guess it got probably close to parallel with me, and I'm looking, I stood up. And there's this big pine tree here. I stood up and I'm looking, and when I finally get to see who it is, I could see just about from here up, and it's a black guy, which made perfect sense. The property belongs to, and at the time belonged to, an old black man who leased the property to me. All of his family lives on the road. Sons, daughters, nieces, nephews, you know. In my mind, it's one of them. They're out here lost or messing around, or we're hunting on top of each other. I didn't know. Nonetheless, it was aggravating and upsetting. So this tree here, so I plopped my back against this tree and I put my leg up just like that, and I have my shotgun, Benelli 3.5 inch 12 gauge automatic. It was all synthetic, was all black, and I had the plug in it. So I had 3 shots, high brass number 4, turkey shot. I put the gun down to my left and I put my hand up over the back of it, you know, a non-aggressive, you know, I'm not going to shoot at you position. But when I see him another time, and what I think he was doing was coming up where he could see and then going back down. Because I seems like I can remember him kind of maybe walking away from me at one point, and nothing was said, but he would snap his head and look at me. He's walking this way, he would snap his head and look at me and look back where he's going, snap his head and look. So I raised my hand, waved at him, you know, like, yeah, I'm right here, you know, don't shoot me, I won't shoot you. Never once thought how in the world he knew where I was. That never occurred to me for some reason.
So when he snapped his head, it was almost like he was looking right at you?
Dead at me. He's looking at me, I mean, in my direction.
Right.
So he comes on around the curve, and where it starts to shallow and come up to that end. Mm-hmm. He's starting to make that grade now, and I can tell he's coming toward me. And he doesn't really look quite right, you know. It's not like I say this, and I've said this a million times. It looked like a fat black guy with a bunch of clothes on.
Yeah, it's just
like he was layered up. And it wasn't really, I don't remember it being that cold. I don't think it was that cold, but there's a reason he looks the way he does. I'm about to find out what it is. Mm-hmm. You know, that's what I'm thinking. And upset, because when I can see him coming up, it looks like he's wearing a camouflage vest. Mm-hmm. What I thought was some kind of camouflage, because it looked like camouflage on his body, and the arms were black. Mm-hmm. So now I'm upset, because if he's wearing camouflage, now he's hunting. Mm-hmm. So
your spot?
My lease. It's been my lease for 7 years. I don't, you know, it was regardless if it was their property or not. Somebody should have told me, is what I'm thinking, you know. So I'm wondering, you know, what I'm going to say to him, and I'm going through that in my head, not really paying a whole lot of attention. And just about 5 feet down that slope, maybe 10 feet down that grade, there were 2 pine trees, about 10-inch pine trees, 25 feet tall, 10 feet apart. We started making his way around this way, and I can see most of him now, kind of through. It wasn't quite that thick. I could see through there that somebody was coming, and it looked like a fat black guy with a bunch of clothes on. But it looked like he was wearing a camouflage vest. What I mean is that his arms were still black, but I could see there was something here. You know, it looked like camouflage. Well, that really upset me, because if he's wearing camouflage, then he's hunting. You know, and I've been out here 7 years hunting by myself. It was unexpected. So I'm waiting for him, and there was 2 pine trees, 10-inch pine trees, 25 feet tall, just down that grade right there, probably 15 feet. And they were that far apart from one another. And when he came up, he was coming up to intersect with those trees. And he got about 10 feet away from them. And when he reached his hand out, and I could see the dark gray skin on the inside of his arm and the hair, it hung down, but it kind of swooped forward. It looked like it came down and hooked. And this hair was really long. I mean, it wasn't that long. It was, you know, 5 or 6 inches long off of his hand. It was longer, which I thought, you know, was bizarre. It was a massive forearm, the size of an NFL football, a whole lot bigger than his bicep. This muscle right here is what I really noticed when he reached that arm out, is that it was so far up, it looked like it was stuck on. Now, again, probably thought it was weird, strange, but still didn't register with me that this was anything other than a guy until he stopped. And when he got there and he grabbed that tree and he pulled himself, I mean, it just pulled it right into him like this, and he's got his hand on the back side of the tree like this. I couldn't see his fingers. And when it all happened so fast that when he stopped and he squared up, and he just all of a sudden looked a whole hell of a lot bigger than he looked when he was walking up. Which, I mean, that humongous looking forearm, like a football size, NFL football size forearm, bigger than his bicep.
What's the distance from y'all?
100 feet at this point.
That's close.
Yeah, close. He was close. Well, still didn't register that this was anything but a guy, but I thought that was, this is a strange looking fellow.
Your mind is thinking, what's up?
Right. Well,
what is?
But I'm about to find out. I'm about to be up close with him. I'm going to see what's going on with this guy. So he grabs that tree, and it all happened so fast. He pulled himself up to it right here, his hand on the backside. I couldn't see his fingers. It wasn't wrapped
tree
around.
was right here. Yeah.
Tree here. And he squared up, and when he squared up at me, and his head sitting down in front of his shoulders that are up here, and it just looks like a very wide body, big body, not bulky cut up, but long, gangly looking arms with a huge forearm, smaller bicep, and big barrel shaped body. His arm looked like it was just stuck on. It didn't look like it was just somebody attached it, because of the muscles that were in his arm. Well, when he did that and immediately opened his mouth. When he opened his mouth, I think that was the moment that I realized exactly what it was, because there was no way what I was seeing. This is not a human. His face completely changed. It went from just straight face, regular kind of looking guy, to demon kabuki mask, black face, kind of shiny black face, big huge cheeks, heavy brow, no forehead, head shaped like a football, sagittal crest. Now he had like wide jaw, very protruding type of mouth, and when he opened his mouth, he could have put a softball in his mouth. It was humongous.
That first time he opened his mouth, he just opened it?
Oh, it's when he started making the noise. Yeah, and it was but it was a very demonic sounding sound. No way a man can make this noise. It was so unnerving and upsetting. When that happened, it was kind of like in an instant. It was just like somebody poured a bucket of cold water over my head, because I'm still in this position with my gun like this, and then that feeling like, a true sinking feeling.
Right.
Dread. That's exactly right. This is not good. Blood rushed from my face. You can feel these things happening. A wrenching type of feeling. It's like constant butterflies, but it's intense.
Frozen.
Yeah. Oh, I was absolutely petrified. Well, and I would think I wouldn't have run anyway. Even if it crossed my mind, I knew better than to run, because he was just going to chase me and catch me, and that was going to be it. Well, my first real concern was what I had. I had my shotgun. Yeah. For 7 years, I hunted that place with my rifle. Every single time I went in there, I had a 7mm Magnum with plenty of ammunition. But I didn't have it that day. I had the shotgun. And with what I had in it, high brass number 4 turkey shot, he was going to have to get pretty close for me to. The way it felt and the way it looked, and this as powerful as he looked, he just looked like a powerful individual.
He could take that 4 shot and just keep coming.
I think, and I had 3, and did not have the plug in it for some stupid reason. I had the plug in it. I didn't take the plug out for some idiotic reason.
You could only have 3 shots.
So I could only have 3 shots, But it was an automatic, and I had other shots with me. So I knew I'd be able to shoot really fast.
And then reload.
Right. These are some of the things that are going through my head. But when he starts making that sound, it's like he's talking to me, griping at me about something that I'm doing.
That's how you felt.
That's exactly how it felt. Like he was upset at me. I was doing something. I crossed the line somewhere in there.
Yeah.
And he was letting me have it. It was like a vibration. You could feel it. It was like a very demonic, nasty sound. But he was moving his mouth like he was saying words. Like he was griping at me about something I was doing.
Well, I knew exactly what it was at that point, is when the realization hit me that this was a Sasquatch. This is what everybody has been seeing in the woods and calling a Sasquatch, and it was so shocking that that feeling is it's hard to describe. But I mean, that it's the first time I can ever remember being that afraid of anything. I didn't think that was even, I'd never thought I could be that scared of anything. And it was just the way he looked and that noise he was making. I'm not trying to move. I don't know if I can move. I knew I wasn't gonna run. I felt like if I tried to run, he was gonna chase me. And a lot of thoughts are going through my head at this point. You know, it looks like I'm gonna have to fight this thing all the way out of here. You know, I've only got 3 shots, but it's an automatic. And what I have from that distance, from there to there, about 80 feet, it's not gonna do a whole lot to him. I'm gonna have to let him get really close to me. But I feel like I'm gonna get the opportunity. I have more in my pocket, like 8 or 9 more here in my pocket. And I'm still in this position, like this. And I guess I got the nerve to move. I wanted to get my hand down and get it on that grip. And in that whole process of me moving my hand down, I mean, before I ever got my hand on there, it was like all simultaneous. He saw me moving my hand and he rocked back and forth twice, 3 times, and when he blew at me, it was probably about the time I might have probably was getting my hand on the grip. And I say he blew, it was more like a huff. It wasn't, he didn't yell, it was like he was throwing some kind of power at me. Because he saw me doing this and he rocks back and forth real fast and just back and like, no, you know, you're not gonna put your hand on that gun. Well, when he did that and I felt it, it hit me like a wave, like somebody startles you or you're scared, and you know, that jump. And when I did that, I guess that was enough for me to get off the tree. I need to get my hand on the grip, you know, of the gun. I want to be ready because it kind of seems like he's getting ready to come get me. Mm. And I mean, as far as you would throw a football with somebody, that's how far away he is. He's close enough I can see how long his canines are on the bottom and the top, and he had a gap in his 2 front teeth. Yeah, white, extremely white teeth. So wow. That's why I think he was young, because he didn't have messed up teeth. They were very, very white. Well, I'm looking at him. What I thought was camouflage was mud. He had mud all over his body, his right side, wrapped around under it. It didn't have it on his arms or on his face, right, but it was all the way up, like he was laying on his side in the creek bottom.
Like where he might have been sleeping that night or something.
Or that morning, or that whatever. Morning, yeah. Whatever. And his hair was matted up. You could see his skin, you know, yeah, underneath, a dark gray skin underneath. Hair was matted up, leaves and twigs and whatever. I mean, he was a mess. Right. He was a ratty looking guy. And the whole process of me thinking I need to get my hand down there, this just happened in just a few seconds. And I go to reach my hand down, and while I'm moving my hand, he sees what I'm doing and just loses it. I mean, he rocked back and forth maybe 2 or 3 times, and then he blew at me. It was kind of like a huff, you know, like a, or more like, no, you know, telling me he didn't approve of me getting my hand down there. But right, the way it all happened, and you know, I'm still in that process of it happened, just about the time I think it hit me, because it hit me like a wave. And it was so powerful. When I felt it, it shook my body, it shook my spine, my liver. You know, when somebody startles you and you know, you jump, that's what I did. And I think that whole jump was enough for me to actually move. And I came off of that tree, out into the clear, and now I'm out from under the limbs that were
out in the clear.
Right, so now I can see the top of the tree he's holding on to. And it's whipping. I mean, it is, you and I and 2 other people couldn't have done what he was doing to that tree. And he wasn't shaking it. He was just still holding on to it while he's rocking back and forth.
While his body was rocking.
Right.
Just holding on to it.
The tree was just whipping. And I mean, that scared me to see that kind of power. That
Yeah.
was probably one of the most other than him leaving, that was one of the most terrifying parts, was to see just how powerful this thing was. And feeling that force that he pushed towards me. He stopped that, went back to making his growling sound, peeled his lips back, showed all of his teeth, and stuck his tongue straight out. Now, he didn't stick it out at me, but it was just like he was tasting the air. You know, it was bizarre, but that's what happened. Well, after he stuck his tongue out, he went back to making his growling and griping at me noise. And all of a sudden everything stopped, and I'm just standing here. He didn't wait around, nothing. As soon as he stopped, he took his hand off that tree and he turned his body to the right and he cocked his head this way. He didn't turn his head. Now maybe you couldn't turn his head, I don't know. But he cocked his head and he looked right down his nose, across his shoulder, and never took his eyes off me. And he took probably 3 or 4 steps, quarter away, going that way, with his head still looking at me. And then he turned and walked dead away from me through the thickest stuff out there. He could have walked clear down that game trail, but I think he walked through the thick stuff, so I guess I couldn't shoot him in the back, I don't know. But I'm still out here. I never pointed my gun at him. I didn't want to do that until he was close enough that I thought I could actually do something to him. You know, but even in my mind, even then, he was so enormous and so powerful looking that I didn't think what I had was gonna affect. If it hurt him, he may die later, but he's probably still gonna get me. And I was thinking, well, you know, if he gets close enough, I got 3 shots, I can shoot him in the head, you know, close 3 times, run while I'm reloading, you know. That was just some of the things. I was working out how I was gonna beat this thing and get out of here, because we're a half a mile from where the 4-wheeler's parked, and I still had to make that walk out. I'm 6'4", and standing down that grade, he's still taller than me, a little bit taller, so he might have been 7.5, 8 feet tall. He was enormous. He was this wide across the shoulders. It looked like a fat black guy with a bunch of clothes on, because he wasn't all Schwarzeneggered up. You know, it was, yeah, real barrel shaped. I mean, straight up and down. Now, there's a picture of one that they said is a hoax, that's standing in a river, that I'll put up, and that's the kind of body that I saw.
Now, this is almost exactly the body type that I saw. The hair wasn't quite that thick. Now, they said this was a hoax, and if it is, it's a really good one. But what I actually saw was this. Now, this is an image taken by who is a friend of mine now. His name is Albert Burlingame. He lives in Brooksville, Florida. This was behind his house. I sent it to our video analyst, Alan Yankelunas. We call him Yank. And this is what he came up with. I asked him to help me prove that this is not lens distortion. And I believe that's exactly what he did. I mean, you can see the wrinkles in its forehead. That's what I saw right there. Hair's a little bit longer, but that's the same color, face, and shape that I saw that day. Now, would that scare you?
As he's walking away, I can hear him, and I can't see him, and I think that's when I was probably the most scared, is when I couldn't really see him anymore, but I can see the bushes kind of moving, and I kept looking this way to my left, because all this was pretty thick, you know, back here, and I kept, you know, looking to my left, because I mean, I'm open over here just to see if something wasn't just gonna try to ambush me. It was kind of the feeling that I had, and I couldn't see him anymore. I could hear him walking away, and when he got maybe 50, 60 feet down that hill into that bottom, that's when he yelled, because I was still standing here. And when he yelled, it didn't sound like, you know, the Finding Bigfoot guys, you know, that wasn't it. it sounded like a whip. And what I mean is it was really fast and abrupt, like a baboon will do. It was like build up, wow, and it was so loud. When that happened, there was not another sound in the woods. You could have heard a mouse fart out here. The wind was blowing just a little bit, and I still stood there for a couple of minutes. And I didn't. After he did that, I didn't hear anything else. I don't remember hearing him walking away anymore. Nothing. And I'm still standing there, and then all of a sudden, I get this feeling like I can feel myself breathing. You know, it wasn't like I wasn't breathing before. I wasn't noticing it. And all of a sudden, you know, I can notice that I'm taking really long, deep breaths, and my heart's pounding out of my chest. And that was when I decided I needed to move. I turned around, I came here, I picked up my backpack, I left everything else, chair, food, hand warmers, whatever else was there. And this is the point where I thought for a moment I might take the plug out and put 2 more in, but I didn't want to get caught in that position. So I just took 3 out of my pocket and put them in my hand, and that's how I walked out, was like this. And I wanted to get out quick, but I didn't want to run. And I would take, while I was still up here, I think I remember looking back a couple times, but I would take really short, quick steps, like, and stop and listen. And I probably did that, you know, 8 or 9 times all the way out. Around here, you learn when you're walking through the woods, if you stop all of a sudden, if a big cat or something's following you, they'll take a few more steps. Well, that's what I was hoping to hear if anything was following me. I never did. He would get loud, like, and then mumble, you know, he just get louder, and but it was in that tone, that unnerving, Ron Moorhead, you know, that. If you ever heard the Sierra sounds, that tone, it wasn't abrupt like that, but it was definitely that tone. Just a demonic sound. And that's the sound that was coming out of his mouth when he was moving his lips. You know, like it was some form and syntax to it. I don't know if it was a language or if he was just mimicking a human language. You know, I don't know. But it's like it felt to me like he was talking to me, griping at me about what I had done for whatever I had done. Well, he stopped doing all that. We probably stood there for 3 seconds after everything stopped. And then he let go of the tree, he turned his body to the right, and he cocked his head. I don't know, he didn't turn his head, because maybe he couldn't turn his head, I don't know. But he cocked his head just like that, way over, and never took his eyes off of me. He looked right down his nose, crossed his shoulder at me. He took about 3 steps toward that game trail, kind of quarter away from me, still looking at me. And then he turned and walked dead away from me through the thickest stuff out there. He could have walked clear down that game trail, but I guess because once he turned and went away, I couldn't see him anymore. I could still hear him, and I'd see a bush move or something, and I'm trying to look and see what he's doing, and I can still hear him walking away, but I can't see him. So I guess maybe he did that so I couldn't shoot him in the back or whatever. And once he got 50 or 60 feet on down that grade, that's when he yelled. And I think he yelled because I was still standing there. You know, I wasn't ready to move yet. I was still standing in that one position watching him. But when he yelled, it wasn't like a Finding Bigfoot, you know, where they, oh, and yell into the,
right.
It wasn't anything like that. It was so abrupt and extremely loud. It was, I explained it like it sounds like a whip. Just, there's a build up, and then it's, wow. I mean, like, you hear baboons do that sometimes. Yeah. That's what it was like. It was just a wow, and it was so loud. As soon as that happened, you could hear nothing in the woods after that. No walking away. I couldn't hear him walking anymore. There was nothing. Breeze was blowing a little bit. Everything else was completely silent. And I still stood there for a couple of minutes until finally I could feel myself breathing. I mean, it's like I told you before, it's not like I wasn't breathing. I'm sure I was breathing, But now I'm noticing it, that I'm taking really long, deep breaths, and my heart's pounding out of my chest, and then everything's starting to close in, like I'm getting tunnel vision. And you know, Linda's a nurse. She said adrenaline will do that to you. You get a big adrenaline dump, and it's like you get heat out here on the periphery. Right. And that's what was happening to me. So once I could feel everything again, turned, I took a couple steps over, picked up my backpack. I left everything else laying there. Chair, food, another bag, I think, calls, I left it all right there. And for a split second, as I was walking out, I thought about pulling the plug out and putting 2 more in. But I didn't want to get caught in that position, you know, even being in the open. Yeah, so I left, and on going out, I would take really short, quick steps, and then, you know, I'd go 50, 60 yards and stop. Stop really quick and listen. Because, you know, bobcats and panthers and big cats and predators will follow you. Mm-hmm. And when they follow you, you stop real quick, they take a couple more steps. And you can hear them. I never heard any of that, but I did that all the way out. You know, and once I got to the creepy place that I always got creeped out at, mm-hmm. That's where I thought he would be waiting for me right there. Now, as I was making my way through here, telling myself the entire time that that was a Bigfoot, that was a Bigfoot, you know, holy crap, that was a Bigfoot. It was so hard to fathom, but still worried enough about my life and getting out of here that wasn't the only thought. And this spot, this creepy spot, if any time I came in here and I got to this one spot, I would get just creeped out sometimes. Early in the morning, fog always settled in it. You know, it's a low area, kind of swampy. And I just would, if I ever got a creepy feeling, it was here. And there was something telling me as I was coming out that this is where he was going to be waiting for me. That I was going to see him coming up, standing on the right, the left, somewhere in here. He was hidden here waiting on me, because that creepy feeling, that thought actually came back to me as I'm coming. Like, these things, I'm thinking it the whole way out. These things have been here the whole time, all these crazy, strange, weird things that happened to me out here that I always attributed to something else. And I was so sure that when I got here to this one spot that he was going to be here waiting for me. But fortunately enough, he wasn't. Praying works, because I was definitely doing a lot of that. This was the final act. This was where they ushered me on out. I was coming up the hill, and then it started opening up. You know, it wasn't as grown up as it is now. And I started feeling a lot better about actually making it out of here. So I got up to probably right up around in here, and I stopped and I turned around. And I mean, 2 seconds, I heard that very distinctive sound of a tree break, a tree or a tree limb, but it was probably 50 yards off back that way. And it's that crackle pop, that ka-ka-ka-ka-pow, just sounds like a rifle shot going off in the woods. And that's the point where I ran. I ran on my four-wheelers about 200 feet away. I got on it, backed out. Probably another terrifying moment was not going forward with the four-wheeler, was actually getting on and backing up, having to back it up just to get out. Drove it to the house where I usually load my four-wheeler on my truck. I pushed the four-wheeler up beside the house. It was probably still rolling when I got off of it. I went and got in my truck. I reached in the back and I grabbed my 7mm Magnum, made sure it was loaded, and sat there for 15-20 minutes, just relieved, first, but reflecting on all the strange, weird things that it was just all just poured back on me at one time. It was very, it was hard to deal with for a long time after that. I don't have near as much trouble with it now. Just being out here now is okay, you know, but you know, we came out here before and not knowing what to expect, I guess. And I never really thought that anything was going to attack me if I came back. But my peace was gone. My sanctuary was gone. There's no way I was going to be able to ever go back in any woods and think about what I was there to do, hunt. No, I was going to be worried about what was watching me or when it was going to come out. So I just never went back. As a matter of fact, I never came back out here again for 11 years. I never talked to the family anymore. I just quit coming. You know, I talked to my friend, but just told him I had, you know, too much other stuff to worry about with work or whatever my excuse was.
You had also mentioned to me in some of our talks that you know, you had heard what you thought people imitating calls.
Right. That was camping out one night.
I was camping out one night and I would pull my truck up and just sit by my truck, fire, and I had a little tent, whatever. I would camp 4 or 5 days at a time. And I remember sitting here, it was probably 9, 10 o'clock one night, just watching nature's television, you know, the fire. And I remember hearing an owl, but it didn't sound right. And the friend that I worked with, is still a good friend to this day, he's the only one that knew where I really was. You know, it's his grandfather's property. And I thought it was him. I can remember responding to it. I don't remember exactly what I said, you know, something like, I hear you out there, you know. But it sounded like an owl, but it sounded like a guy trying to sound like an owl. It was like, ho, 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 you know. It wasn't, when I finally waited, you know, for a while after saying something, nobody ever came up. I was like, well, you know, maybe it was an owl, I don't know. But I can remember later on that night hearing a fox yip, and they're pretty loud. And that didn't sound right either. It sounded like a guy trying to mimic a fox yip. And that, it was a little bit of distance to it. It was probably 50 yards away when I heard it. But I really think that was them. I think they were around me the whole time out here. I think I was out here over 300 days a year for 7 years straight. And I'm almost positive that there's a point where I think they thought I knew they were here. But I didn't until I was blissfully unaware until that one day.
Now, you also had mentioned too that you thought you heard these kids that were playing like in the woods down in the bottom.
Right. That was one afternoon. I was in my shooting house and heard that.
The day that I heard the kids playing, I was in my shooting house, and this kind of slowly grades off down into a creek bed, and then you turn and go up about another 500 yards is the house. Well, I'm hunting, it's probably 3 o'clock one afternoon, and I hear what sounds like kids yelling, screaming at each other, high-pitched voices from down in the, you know, playing, yelling, whatever. Well, I mean, I can't shoot that way now. My hunt is over, so I get out, walk down there to go tell them to get their butt back up to the house. And I get down there and there's nothing. There's no one there. I don't even hear kids playing up at the house now. And not knowing at the time that the only kids around here was one 12-year-old girl. And I just learned that, but there weren't no kids around here to be playing, but that's exactly what it sounded like, was children.
Also, there was one time where you felt like, as you were walking out that main trail to head back out, you felt like something might be actually following you, or...
Yeah, well, at the time that happened, I thought it was a buck. You know, I would put dough and heat on my feet and walk in, and I thought it was a buck following me. This is the spot that I stopped the day I thought I was being paralleled. But you know, when you're deer hunting, when I walked in, I would put dough and heat urine on my boots, cover my scent coming in. So as I'm coming down the hill this way, and I can hear, sounds like something walking beside me out in the woods, I don't know, 40, 50 feet, but it's so thick, I thought it was a buck. Could smell me and was paralleling all right beside me. Well, when I got down, I came down to right here where this hump is. This is an old fire lane. And I laid down right here. And I remember hearing tapping, but I thought, man, if it's a buck, you know, his rack is hitting, you know, on a tree or some limbs or something. But so I would tap on my rifle, tap, tap, tap. And then I would hear a couple of taps come back. You know, probably maybe done that once or twice. And I probably laid here 15, 20 minutes, you know, waiting for whatever to keep coming, but it never came any closer. And I always, maybe it was a buck, I don't know, but I mean, it's not normal behavior for a buck.
We also talked, and you said now that you're looking back, you've had plenty of time to reflect, and there was times that you went in there. Things may have been thrown at you, dropped by you. What happened there?
One time that I can recall that I can look back and honestly say I think they were throwing things at me was when I cut through the pines one day going north. Was if I came down here and I decided I wanted to go hunt the field, I would come up here to the top of this hill and cut through. It's a lot, you know, it's a lot faster than going all the way around and then back down. It's just a straight cut right through there. Well, it's mostly pines, and I'm walking through and I hear something hit the ground next to me. I don't know what it was, but I heard it hit. So I stop and I'm looking up. And I didn't see anything or hear anything, so I kept going. Something else hit the ground in front of me. Well, I stop and look up then. At this point, it's a red squirrel, you know, because red squirrels are pretty slick. You know, they'll get opposite side of the tree from where you are. You'll never see them. And that happened maybe 2 or 3 more times going through there. For about 100 feet, something would hit the ground. But I never saw anything, you know, a squirrel with butterfingers following me through, dropping stuff. So I think it was them throwing stuff at me because I was cutting through. That's something I didn't normally do, you know, but I had maybe done twice. But I think that was them throwing stuff at me.
Now, you know, you've had this encounter. You know this place backwards and forwards. What would you say was like the strangest thing that happened to you out there, you know, before this encounter?
That would have to be the time I got lost. It was the worst time to get lost, and I was just arrogant enough to do it.
Well, we've all done it if you're a hunter.
Yeah. About 2 seasons before the encounter, I had gone off down into the bottoms. Now this area right here, this was my camp out area. I had a shooting house there, I had another shooting house back that way, but this is pretty much centrally located. So whenever I camped here for days at a time, it was here. It wasn't this clear. When you hunt a place for long enough, at this point 5 years for me, I felt like I knew this place inside and out. You know, there was no It was arrogance is what it was, and complacency. Because what happened is I ended up getting lost. And I think the main reason I got lost because it was raining. Misting rain, so I can't see any stars. And when it gets dark, I don't care who you are, how long you've been anywhere, when you get turned around, that's it. It's over, because everything looks exactly the same in every direction. You do not know what direction you're going in. And that's what happened to me. I let it get dark on me. It was mist and rain. When I came out, I guess I just missed my trail. And I got, seriously turned around. I think I was actually walking in circles for a while out there. Well, until I finally, because you can't hear any traffic, so you know what direction the road might be. Even then, at a distance, you still don't know what direction. It echoes through the woods. You don't really know what direction it is. So I said, well, I need to just get down the lowest spot I can find. That bottom one, I know where that goes. I found the creek bottom, so I know where that came out. I knew that was going to come out behind the McGee's house. So I find it, and I'm tromping through. I've got my rifle on my shoulder, and I've got a really bright light, a mag light. At this point, there were no LED lights then. The big black mag lights. And the story I told at the time was that I had walked up in the middle of a bunch of hogs. And now, aside from being out here for 5 years and never seeing a single hog, it was like all of a sudden I'd found them, like I'd found the turkeys. And I don't know, maybe I shine my light on them, but they were kind of up. I'm in the creek bottom, and it's a slow grade going up either side of me. And I guess I shine my light on them. I got probably 15 feet away, and all of a sudden, just, commotion, leaves, and fast and grunting, but it was breathy grunting, like, it was just momentarily, but it was this way and this way, and I'm looking for a tree to get up. I'm crapping myself, because if you walk up in the middle of hogs and you startle them like that, they're coming after you.
Is it dark? Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was completely dark, pitch black. I couldn't. That's why I got lost, because it got dark on me. Well, I'm looking for a tree to get up, and they go. I never saw anything. I never saw what it was or what they were, because there was at least 4 or 5 of them, big bodied. And I can remember hearing bipedal walking. It was fast, going this way. And they didn't really go away. They went that way, behind me, 40, 50 feet, and stopped completely. Now you would think I would be able to hear them fade away, but that's not what happened. They just stopped, and I'm still, crapping myself, wondering why they didn't come after. Maybe I scared them, I don't know. But I stood there for a few minutes, I guess, and when I told the story, I didn't mention that I heard the walking. That didn't really come back to me until later. I thought it was kind of strange, but maybe he was trotting, I don't know. To me, it could have been plausible that it was a hogs, and that was a hog, and that he was running away like that. But stood there for maybe 10 or 15 seconds, and then 4 hours later finally made my way out. But I believe that was them. I think I walked right up in the middle of them. They were shined my light on them, and that was from where I was probably 500 or 600 yards that way, and this is where I finally came out. I remember that tree right there. I remember seeing, found a trail that went back there to a small pond, and I remember I was coming up that trail, and I remember seeing that tree. I knew right where I was. I'd made it all the way back to the camp, actually.
So now with all this, is there any other oddities that you can think of that actually happened?
Yeah, there's a couple. There's the many times that I would be in my shooting house and hear footsteps outside the door. I can remember being here in my shooting house and hearing on quite a few occasions footsteps. This was not this thick here. There was a thicket, but it was, you can see the edge of it over there is about 20 feet. And it sounded like heavy footfall, but it was slow. It was like step, 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 and I'm thinking there's a buck right here slipping. I mean, that's what bucks do, is they slip through. And I can't see out the door that way. I can only see out the front and the back when the back is open. And so I'm sitting up here, I'm looking out here, and I'm waiting. 15 minutes goes by, and I just finally stick my head out and look, and there's nothing there. But I mean, I think whatever it was slipping through the thicket anyway. But I believe that was them.
Looking back, I guess now, and you've had a long time to feel all this out. Did you recognize or come up with anything, any other indicators that would lead you to believe that these creatures were actually there living?
Something that I might have should have noticed before?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The many times that I would be in my tree climber and just hear what sounded like a truck coming through the woods. When I say I think they tried to scare me out of here before, is being down here, there was a couple of tall pine trees, didn't have a limb on them for 20 feet, and that's where I would get my tree climber. And I would hear what sounded like a truck coming through the woods. I mean, limbs popping, breaking, bushes shaking. I mean, something really upset. And I mean, in my mind, it's a buck. But you know, realistically, that's not what bucks do either. They, even if they do get mad, they're not gonna be breaking limbs. But I mean, it was something big and heavy, and it would always get to the edge of the thick and stop. And then I heard nothing else. And I mean, I'm thinking, well, you know, I got winded. But it continued to happen. It happened so much that I knew whenever I heard that, I wasn't gonna get to see what it was. It happened that often.
It's extremely difficult to say anything about these creatures because we just don't know. But in your opinion, given this extraordinary encounter that you had, because not many people have been face to face with one, for
Not in come forward, no. I
Right.
think plenty of people have gone through it. It's as bad or worse than I've gone through it. They're not coming forward. And I mean, I don't blame them.
Why do you think it came forward to show itself?
I think because, you know, I didn't know anything about them at the time. So I always treated it like this was a near-death experience, you know,
Mhm.
a cautionary tale, you know, for the woods. And you know, you never can prepare yourself for, you know, falling face first into a nightmare.
Right.
Because that's exactly what it was. It was the worst possible situation I could be in, and that I didn't feel like I was going to make it out. So I felt the way I felt at the time, and for a while after, that's how I felt. Now, knowing something about him now, I don't think he wanted to hurt me. I think if he wanted to hurt me, he would have snuck up on me and got me and just took me out.
Because he knew where you were.
Oh, absolutely. And I think they've probably been close enough to me plenty of times to just take me out.
Mm-hmm.
What I think is he wanted me to know he was coming, but he was still checking me out, making sure I wasn't doing anything crazy or stupid, that he wasn't going to be able to carry on and do what he thought he needed to do,
Mm-hmm.
which was scare the hell out of me and get me out of there.
Right, and it worked.
It absolutely worked. Yeah, they were successful. He was successful, and I do know there was more than just him out there. But I think they knew me, had watched me for 7 years, knew
Yeah.
exactly who I was, probably even thought I knew they were there. You know, that's crossed my mind too. But why he did that then, the only thing I did differently was I went turkey hunting. And then, you know, this recently occurred to me. You know, I always thought, well, it had something to do with the turkeys. But why exactly the turkeys? I shot plenty of deer, some that I had lost, I probably lost 5 deer. Lost a nice 8-point buck in there. Shot it early in the morning. Heard him crash. And you hear them crash, that's it. They're done.
Yeah.
So, but it was early enough. I sat there and waited for another one. You know,
So some time's passed,
yeah,
right.
a couple hours goes by, I get down, I go down there, and he's not where he landed. You know, there's plenty of lung blood everywhere, and the leaves are all messed up. But I mean, there's a lot of small animals that come through those bottoms.
Yeah.
The leaves are messed up everywhere.
Yeah.
There, you couldn't tell where there were any footprints or tracks. So you would never be able to tell that, even if you were looking for them. But I think they picked him up and carried him off. Then I looked for that deer all day long. You know, there's no way he got up after that and just ran off and died somewhere. You know, and even being in there, I never saw a body or buzzards or anything. I probably lost 4 or 5 deer like that over the whole course of time. But that one nice 8-point, that was upsetting to lose one like that.
So
I think I fed them. So
Yeah.
they never, and like I said, I think they tried to scare me out of there plenty of times with the crashing through the woods and just like bluff charging me without showing themselves really, you know. But I think it was the number of turkeys. You know, you think every time they saw me shoot a deer, the deer comes out, it's one deer, and I shoot it. Maybe it might have been 2, and I'd still shoot one of them, the other one runs off.
Right.
Now I got 30 turkeys coming. Oh, the whole flock is coming. I mean, could he have thought I was going to take all of them?
All of them. Yeah.
And it was like, no, this is no way. I'm not letting this happen. And so that to me, that sounds more plausible than anything else, than it just being the turkeys. Because they didn't do anything about the deer.
Yeah.
You know. And I thought, you know, turkeys, hens, they lay a lot of eggs. You know, that's a good source of food.
Yes,
there
it
were
is.
no big gobblers in there. And I mean, another thing that occurred to me is, you know, what if they eat the big gobblers and then let the hens just lay the eggs, you know?
That's smart.
Yeah, I
That's
mean-
smart. You know, they know
Turkey,
that they're going to reproduce.
If you're
Yes.
a Sasquatch, and with what we assume these things are capable of, a turkey on the roost is easy pickings.
Yeah.
Should be. You know, you just silhouette them and then it's over.
Yeah.
So that's another plausible thing, but I think it's a combination of those things. Knowing who I was, seeing me for all those years, watching me hunt and take animals out of there, especially deer, mostly deer. And then I think it was the number of turkeys, I really do. I
Right.
think that he just wasn't going to have it, wasn't going to let me have it.
It makes some sort of sense.
Right. There
And
was
that's all
definitely a
we can
line there that I had crossed.
Yeah.
You know, when we went back, and one of the most cathartic things I could have possibly done, I should have gone back years ago, was when I talked to Daniel, you know, Mr. McGee's son, the current landowner. And, you know, when I pulled up in the driveway, he knew exactly who I was. It's been 11 years. He opened the door, you know, get on in here, you know.
Where you been?
Yeah, exactly. And you know, once I just laid it out there for him, and
What did he do?
the confirmation that I got from him, that probably helped me more than anything. Mr. McGee, you know, really appreciate you taking the time to sit down with us and talk about. Now you remember when I came back here the other day and I mentioned what had happened to me back here, and it seemed like it brought back some things for you too. Now I can remember almost every time I would come in here, I would hear that knocking. And you hear that knocking here still?
Yeah, I still hear that knocking. Me and a lot of other people, neighbors.
And any idea whatever you thought it might be?
Well, we thought somebody was just building something, knocking on something, like somebody was beating with hammers or just building on something.
But I mean, you think about that. I mean, who's really?
But back there, there's no
Yeah.
one beating on anything.
Yeah, they'd have to be constantly doing this. I mean, I remember you
no
telling me.
one would be building on anything at 1 and 2 o'clock in the morning,
Right. And that's,
11 and 12 o'clock at night,
I can remember.
and there's no light.
No light. And I can remember hearing it at 2 o'clock in the morning and thinking, well, it's got to be a deer or a buck or something. I mean, trying to rationalize, but it has rhythm. You know, it's that pow, 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 like a hammer. Somebody's hammering on something, or like a stick on a tree or something. You know, that it's got that very distinctive sound. Now, what else? And you say you saw something here when y'all were kids?
Oh yeah, but no one believed us at
Right.
that time.
What happened?
But me and some neighbors up the street, one or two of my brothers, he's walking down the main McLaurin Lane road, and something just stood straight up, right in the brush of the bushes at the fork of the road, right in the bush area, and everybody there hauled behind, straight out of there, and we all ran home telling them that, but they didn't believe it.
Well, and what did it look like?
It's like some hairy ape or something like that. But it was much bigger. It was more than 6 foot tall.
Right.
It was at least about 8 feet.
Right.
Taller than a man.
So, and how long ago was this?
We was 12 to the group of from 12 to 16 years old.
So when y'all were
Young teenagers.
young adults, young teenagers.
When that happened.
Now, something I remember when I used to talk to your mom and daddy all the time before they passed away, when I first come out, and I remember him telling me that y'all just couldn't keep animals around here. A dog wouldn't stay, cats couldn't keep. They just, I think you had a horse that got attacked, right?
That's right. Had marks on his hind legs.
Like claw marks.
Claw marks on his hind legs. That we could never figure it out. We said, well, maybe bobcat or something, but the marks, you can see the imprint on bobcat claw, but it wasn't nothing like that.
Well, bobcat's usually not an attack of horse.
No, because I feel like you could kick enough that he would pretty much move out of the way with it. Or he can offend himself against that or something. But it wasn't that. We know it wasn't that. And yes, we come missing animals. Cows sometimes. Chickens at times. Dogs at times.
Well, you know, like Scott and I were talking, you know, country dogs just don't just run off.
No.
You know, you feed them up.
As long as you feed them good, they never
Yeah.
leave. They're always there.
They're always
But just to disappear out of the blue. You never see that one again. We buy more, or we get more. People give them to you straight out, just come up. You feed them or whatever, they'll stay around. But lately, they just vanish. Seems like to us. So.
Well, I told you what I saw back here that day, and I just never came back. I didn't come back to talk to anybody, and I probably should have, but it scared me so bad that I didn't want to have anything to do with any woods anymore, and I didn't want to investigate it. Right, well, I mean, how do you feel now, knowing what I've told you I've seen back there?
I believe you. I believe you comfortably. I know it. We know that's what it is.
Right.
And even last year, even before I accumulated cancer and different things like that I had to go to the hospital for and all that, bypassing that, we hunt back there all through deer season. And like my good friend both said, Ben, I can't speak for him because he's not here, but we both heard some of the same things. Right. And I thought, you know, when people doing deer calls, turkey calls, and just different things like that. Even sometimes when I came home after I killed a deer, and he stayed to kill more. He killed more deer, but like I was saying, when we talked, he killed 2 deer right next to each other. When he went down out of the tree, it wasn't one deer there.
But there was a blood spot.
Right there. It was a blood spot where he shot the other one. And he dropped right there.
See,
He
I
said
have-
within 3 minutes, he's putting his gun down, turning around, backing down, coming out of his deer stand down the tree. It wasn't but one deer left there.
And he shot one, and the other one just stood there. So
And he shot the
it,
other.
dropped them both,
Right there.
one missing. And I'll tell you, this happened to me. I lost a buck, a nice 8-point
Mm-hmm.
that I had been hunting. I wouldn't have been able to tell where something came in, grabbed it, and took it away.
It happened, but it wasn't what you thought.
Right. I thought he just got up
Bobcat
and
did.
ran off. I thought I just
No.
didn't get him. I thought I
You
knocked
got
him
it.
down.
No, he crashed. You got it.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
deal was something else got it. Not somebody else,
Right.
but something else got it.
That's right. They came along and picked
It
him up.
wasn't nobody else because you the only one who was in the, well,
That's
you
right.
thought you was the only one in the woods that day.
Yeah, for 7 years. I thought I was
Because you the only one was hunting there.
That's right.
That's why you killed so many deers there.
I think your brother might have gone out there once,
So twice.
maybe, but never did get anything.
No.
You know, I was always bringing meat to
Yeah.
your mom and dad.
Because he never had patience to sit and wait.
Right.
So,
Yeah, and he told me make it my own, so I pretty much did. You know,
that's right.
that's exactly what I did. I always thought like I was gonna run off with it.
Yeah.
He, your mom and daddy, they were just great folks, man. I mean, not any different than you are.
Yeah.
I mean, you've been very welcoming to us.
And I always will be.
And your sister Mary, always, she was always like a mother to me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and her boys, they're the ones that got me hooked up with your dad.
Yeah.
Hunting out here, you know.
That's right.
Because I think they used to mess around back here. I'll tell you what, it seemed like the deer were always running.
That's right.
I never saw one just ease into the corn pile. They were always run in, eat, and run out. Like they were always on the run, always on the lookout. And I mean, all this makes sense now. And none of this stuff really sunk in until after I'd seen what I'd seen. That all of this stuff come pouring back and sink in. We want to thank Daniel for sitting down with us, just taking the time, and for letting us continue to use the property, for Scott to use the property and investigate out there. And we just couldn't be more appreciative. We really thank you, Daniel. Talking to Daniel initially, I asked him who was hunting out there then, and I mean, I almost didn't have to get any of it out of my mouth. And he knew that we needed to talk to Bo. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, Bo had already told him things that he had seen out there hunting. And then everything with the chicken houses in the area, all those things that were happening there. And, you know, and getting to talk to Bo and someone actually getting a visual on this thing recently, it's almost like vindication.
Right. It felt good for that long, you hearing this.
Right. It was just to hear him tell it. Well, Bo, we appreciate you taking the time to sit down here with us, and just really all you're doing is confirming everything that happened to me 11 years ago.
No problem. I don't mind.
You talk about what happened to you out here. Now, I always heard, every time I came out here, I would hear knocking. I mean, and I always kind of was in the direction of the house, so I figured there's somebody out there hammering or something, but it was happening all the time. And I do remember being out camping and hearing it at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
I'd hear it 200 yards away over here,
Yep.
and then turn right around and hear it again in this other direction, way off.
Well, I do a lot of coyote hunting out here at all times of the night, and there's a lot of big pine trees out there, and you can hear knocking, and you can tell it's wood on wood. It's not metal or anything, it's wood on wood, hard knocking. It may start here, and the next thing you know, it's way over here, and then you're surrounded by knocking. Then the whistling. Now, the whistling I heard was just real short, loud whistles. But it was, when one would start, it wasn't no time, then you'd hear another one. Then another one, another one. But it seemed like every time it started, just like the knocking, it was surrounding me wherever I was at, no matter where I was. So, I mean, they had to been moving, because as I would move coming back to my truck, it would still be around me.
Following you.
It seemed like it was following me.
Oh, it was following you.
Yeah.
I can guarantee you they were following you. Now, tell us about what you saw. Now, you've seen these things twice out here, right?
Twice. I've heard the whistling and the knocking, and I've heard a lot of other weird stuff that you may could say was a panther or an owl, but I know the things I saw was not a panther or an owl or anything like that.
This used to be a beaver pond, all this behind us.
Right past in here.
Yeah, and it held water forever. My dad busted it down and put a culvert over there so it doesn't really hold water anymore. But when I saw this thing, I was coming down the hill going to my deer stand.
Yeah.
And when I got about where you are, I saw something. It was kind of reddish brown, and it was bent over, just like this, and it was raking its hands in the water, just moving its hands in the water. And as I got closer, it smelled me, heard me, something, and it looked over at me, and it looked like an orangutan until it stood up. When it stood up, it was way taller than an orangutan.
So it
stood erect.
It stood straight.
Yeah, it stood straight up, looked at me for just a short while, and then calmly just turned and walked that way. And I kept listening to hear, just try to hear if it was coming back around.
Yeah.
Never heard nothing. Once it got out of my sight, I couldn't hear a thing. And even as it was walking, and I saw it walking off, I still couldn't hear much of anything. Wasn't loud at all. I would make, me trying to be quiet would make 10 times more noise than what that thing did. Right. I think he was trying to forage for crawfish or something. Or he could have been washing his hands off, maybe. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know what, but he had his hands in the water and he was just raking them back and forth to the water. He wasn't being violent with it. It was just real calm.
So every time you come here, you always look over there?
Dang right. Every time I always look over there just to see. It was more scared of me than I was of it.
Yeah.
But yet it walked away calmly.
It did. It didn't run. It didn't tear the woods down getting out of here. It just calmly walked out.
Now, what made you, did you just happen to look and see it, or did it make a sound to make you look over there and see it?
Well, I mean, I could hear water.
You heard that water movement that it was doing with its hand.
And I thought it might be a coon or something. And there's been, people have seen panthers back here, and I just looked over to see, hey, what is that making that?
And
what's in
right
that water?
there. And it was brown.
It's brownish red.
Now,
like an orangutan.
Could you see through the fur or the hair to see like skin parts?
No, it was really, really thick.
Yeah.
It had a lot of hair.
But it was enough that you could see a body.
Oh yeah, definitely. It would have towered over me. It was huge and wide, and it was kind of the color of an orangutan. He was kind of dirty though.
That's the first time I seen one.
Well, for the record, that's the exact spot where I would just get creeped out, man. I mean, it didn't happen every time, but if I ever got creeped out, it was right there. I mean, just walking past, because back then you could see almost all the way to that other pond that was down there, that little pond to the right. And then there's that beaver, what you call beaver pond area right there. It's a lot more grown up now than it was then. But I mean, I just felt like I'm being watched. I'm just something creepy going on here. And then I'd get past it and I'd be good. Going about doing what I was doing.
I deer hunt on past there. You go on past Mr. Daniel's land and you get on my stepmom's land. But every time I'd walk back in the dark to my truck, I had to go right by that pond, and I got that same feeling like I'm being watched.
Right.
And the hair on the back of my neck would stand up, and I may not hear nothing sometimes, but every time I got close to that pond, I got a weird feeling. When it's just like, you can't explain it. It's as if you're being watched. It feels like somebody's watching you. I love the woods. I love the woods and water. I stay out there as much as I can. I love to hunt.
I used to be the same way, and the effect it had on me just completely changed my life. I sold everything I owned. I never went back in the woods again.
I hate to hear that, because the woods can be a very peaceful place.
It was my sanctuary, and I lost it. And that's why my life changed, because I had to change it. I didn't have a choice.
Right.
But I treated it as a near-death experience. Like I had escaped that incident with my life.
Well, something big is what I saw. It could have tore you in half, I would imagine, with no problem.
No question.
If it wanted you dead.
And I know right now, if I would have had my 7 mag, I'd have shot him right between the eyes.
Really?
There ain't no doubt.
And the second time I saw it, it was nowhere near as long as the first time. And this was last year. I was going to the shooting shack, and I was gonna check my camera first to see what had been in there days prior. I walked to before I got to my camera, out there in the clearing, I saw something very tall, hairy, matted up hair, just like the other thing I saw. May have been a little bit shorter and not quite as big, but it jetted to the left. Just as soon as I got close to it, he was gone. But he tore through the woods like you talking about, like a bulldozer. I mean, it just made all kind of racket. And it got out there, and it wasn't very long after that, stuff started coming in my direction. Rocks, tree limbs, and then the tree knocking, it was beating on the trees, and the whistling started again. Now on this time, there was only that one that whistled, because I never heard nothing whistle back. Maybe he was off, done got away from the rest of them, I don't know. But he started throwing stuff. Pine cones, whatever, I guess he could find. But I grabbed one of the rocks that he threw, and I threw back in the direction. And it stopped for a little while, and it started again. So I grabbed my card out of my camera, and I got on back to my truck. So I didn't know what, I know what I thought it was, but I didn't want to be out there.
Now, is it your dad or your uncle that owns the chicken houses?
My dad.
Your dad owns the chicken houses, and they have chickens that come up missing?
All the time they've got chickens come up missing, and he says it's raccoons, or it's possum, or skunks, or foxes, coyotes.
Well, we rationalize those things.
Yeah, but we set out traps, and the traps get sprung, but we have not caught anything. We've had traps pulled out of the ground that were 3 feet in the ground, held with a 3-foot section of rebar, jerked right out of the ground. Now I don't know what kind of possum or raccoon or skunk could do that. They can't do that. But we've had lots and lots of chickens gone, and they're never eaten right there. There's never no signs of feathers or blood or none of that. It's just chickens gone. You might see some feathers wherever the thing's coming or going from, wherever I guess it jerked the chicken out of the hole. But what I'm getting at, it's not consuming the chicken right there. It's not eating him right there.
When you look at this place on the map, and where all the chicken houses are,
it's surrounded.
This is right in the middle.
Yep.
Dead smack dab in the center of it. And the habitat, it's a perfect habitat to hide in. They could travel through that creek bottom and never ever be seen. We want to thank Bo for sitting down with us, for taking the time to go out into the field and tell us and where everything happened and show us where it all happened. And we couldn't be more appreciative. We're glad to have you on board with us, Bo, and we thank you.
You lived with this for a long time, 7, 11 years. What was it, if it told anybody? What's brought you now full circle to do an actual show now?
Well, wanting to contribute in some way. I tried researching. Just getting back out in any woods was hard enough.
Right.
I knew I wasn't going to be able to hunt. That piece was gone. I was not going to ever have that again.
That sucks.
Yeah, well, I really don't miss anything about it. So, I mean, it changed enough that I couldn't afford to miss it.
Yeah.
But thinking, once Linda and I had established we were going to do something, we were going to make some kind of contribution, and just try to do the best we could to let people know these things are absolutely real. Linda and I decided once the research thing wasn't going to work. I couldn't look for them. I just didn't want to do it. I didn't feel comfortable doing it. Didn't feel comfortable having her out there doing it. Didn't matter how armed we were. But still knew we wanted to make some kind of contribution. Whether it was for our own personal mental health or whatever. I knew I wanted to make people aware. And learning actually that we were successful in doing that at least once. And I've got an email. I want to read this. I want everyone to hear this. I get a lot of emails. You know, I welcome all of them. I want to talk to everybody. If you go to our website, BigFootOdyssey.us, you will see my phone number on there. And you can call me anytime. But I want to read this. This is from a man's name is Kip. And he wrote me this email. And I want you all to hear it. This was worth every bit of it. Just reading this. Carrie, I moved to send you an email. I finally got to hear your encounter on Sasquatch Chronicles. I had no idea you were on Wes's show. First off, you're a great storyteller, or maybe I should say, describer of events. As I heard you describe your encounter, as I was actually terrified for you, as if it was there happening, if I were there and it was happening now. Secondly, I'm a 61-year-old man who grew up in very rural southern West Virginia. I spent my fair amount of time in the woods over the course of my life, and I'm certain my opinion of Sasquatch was much like yours prior to your encounter. I didn't have an opinion and didn't think much about it. I never saw one, never heard of anyone seeing one, and the likelihood of me ever seeing one was zero. I thought if they exist, they live in the furthest remote places imaginable. Recently, for reasons unbeknownst to me, I have become interested in this subject. I found Wes's podcast, and more times than not, after listening to an episode, I was not convinced. I watched all the very well-known documentaries, and though at times there was great evidence, it still didn't compel me to sign off on being a total believer. I found your YouTube channel, Bigfoot Odyssey, and you and your wife struck a chord with me. Your relaxed style of talking to witnesses and visiting their encounter site really started to make me think that these things exist, perhaps everywhere. I was 75% to 80% in, totally intrigued until I finally heard you talk about your encounter. I heard you describe the event as how it changed your life. It took you years before ever entering the woods again. I can see it in your face on Bigfoot Odyssey. Dude, you had a close-up and personal encounter with a Sasquatch. They exist, and they are many. When Wes asked you, like he does all of his guests, what do you think they are, and you said, human, school was out for me. I've always felt that if they exist, they are probably more human than not. I'm not sure why I'm writing you other than I feel I'm being drawn to the subject of Sasquatch. It has been a compelling thought for a couple of years, and I don't know why. I live in Pittsburgh now, and unless one knocks on my door, I don't expect I'll be having an encounter anytime soon. I don't want one, but I want to know the guy who I'm convinced did. My YouTube comments say thank you for all your hard work you're doing. I want to thank you again and want you to know the impact your show has had on me.
That was an outstanding email.
That right there is why we do it. That's why we do it. Awareness. If there's someone hunts, and I've heard it from my brother-in-laws and anybody else that's hunted, they tell me I've hunted my entire life, never seen anything like that out there. Well, I was exactly the same way. But you have to think about how we hunt these days. Anybody. We're creatures of habit. We park our truck in the same place, we walk in the same way, we go to the same shooting house, we go to the same tree stand, we do the same thing over and over as we're going in. It's not hard for anything self-aware to hide from you.
Right.
The deeper in you go, the further away they get. That's just how they stay away from us.
We're easily patterned.
Yeah, we are. Mm-hmm. We are very easily patterned. And I would just urge anyone, if you're a deer hunter, just even if you scoff at it, just try to pay attention out there a little more. And those little things that you kind of discount and play off, that as I did, I discounted and wrote a lot of things off when I was out there, especially tree knocking. That was a buck. Had to be. What else could it be? But if you think realistically, in actuality, as we like to say, buck's gonna rattle on stuff, you know, it's not gonna have rhythm and force. You know, woodpecker, no, not a woodpecker.
No.
This is a hammer on a piece of plywood, you know, that's the sound, the tone. It's a heavy hit.
Yeah.
And I heard it a lot. But just those little things like that, you know, walking through the woods and something dropping out of the sky around you, you know, a strange odor that you don't really recognize, you know, really bad, musky, stale urine type of smell. That's my experience of what most of them smell like. So that's why we do this. We want people to be aware. You know, we couldn't, when we decided we were going to do the show, and it came down to how we were going to format it, you know, we wanted to do something different. Are we going to try to educate people? Well, no, we don't know anything.
Not going to do the research and deal.
No, we're not going to do the researching. We don't really know anything to tell people. So what we can do is try to learn ourselves. And the advantage I think that we have is we're not going to the same place like most people have to. They have their research area. So they're going to the same place, and they may be getting a pattern of a particular group of Sasquatch. We're fortunate in getting to go to many different areas and many different places. And in the process of us learning, hopefully pushing some awareness to other people and have them learn
I think
along
so.
beside us. You know, awareness is a 50-50 prospect. You're either aware or you're not. But, you know, it takes effort, you know.
Well, it takes an open mind, too.
Yeah, it takes an open mind. Even if you do scoff at it and you have, you know, nothing really good to say about it.
Possibility.
Yeah, just consider it as a possibility, because I'm telling you, it can happen to you. Well, that was it. Hope you guys enjoyed that. You know, we weren't going to do my encounter on our show, and I think there were enough people that heard it on Sasquatch Chronicles, enough of our regular the subscribers that have been with us from the beginning.
They requested it?
Yeah, shout out Tammy Evans, Pipe Cat, Ern Harvick, Mike
Yeah,
Miller.
There's so many.
Yeah, those guys were pretty adamant, some of them, about wanting us to do my encounter. And we tried to do it, it's kind of long, but we tried to do it, you know, the way we know we want to the rest of our shows that we put out to go. So you can pretty much expect that this kind of format for the rest of the shows that we put out. What do you think?
I've heard your encounters so much. I mean, and it's always the same. You know, every time you tell me or speak about it, you know, I see a little bit more ease in your voice. But to hear Daniel and Bo, what they had to confirm, especially when Bo says, you know, this is where I saw it, and it happens to be that same area
Right.
where you got creeped out all the time. So I think that's what I enjoyed the most about it. And seeing you get out there and do it without falling to pieces. I think you did a real good job. I'm very proud of it.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
You know, we pulled out the drone, but when I was looking through the drone footage, it just stopped recording in spots, and it would pick back up again. So I need to work out what the deal is with that. It wasn't a whole lot of drone footage anyway, but we are going to be incorporating the drone into future shows. And speaking of future shows, the next episode 6, DDoS Bigfoot Dogman Research Project, that's shot. We just got back from Oklahoma, and DDoS, what an awesome guy.
He is so sweet.
Such a nice guy. What he's got coming up and going on, he's gonna be successful. He's already successful. I think if he would have put as much into it as from the beginning as what he's got, what he's about to put into it, he would be a a lot farther along, a lot bigger. And I talked to him about that, you know, because he kind of slowed down for a little while. But yeah, that episode is going to be good, and that's going to be out. It's not going to be long. I'm going to edit it while I'm home. We're going to have it waiting in the queue, maybe just before Christmas. We'll get that one out, maybe a week before Christmas. You can expect to see episode 6. And then after that, we are either going back to Oklahoma to film with Miss D. Sims, Lady in the Woods. That doesn't like me calling her a professional or an expert.
I like Miss D.
Or Kentucky to film with Rick Wells, Woodbooker Farm. It just depend on who we can match our time up with. Either way, we're still going to do both of those. It's just a matter of which one is going to get done first. And we got a lot of information coming in. Please go to our website. Go to bigfootodyssey.us. Check that out. Do our survey if you want to do a show with us. Email us at bigfootodyssey@gmail.com. If you have a show, anything you think you can, a story to tell, we'll contact you, we'll talk about it, and we'll set it up, and we don't mind traveling to do it. We do have, if you want to support the show, you can look in the description. We have a PayPal. We haven't set up a Patreon yet, but there is a PayPal there if you want to contribute anything. If you don't,
You're still going to get this
you're
free.
still getting it for free. But if you want to help us out, the best way you can help us out, hit that thumbs up button. Just take 1 second, go hit that thumbs up button. That really helps the show out a lot. It helps puts us into other people's feeds, and it really gets us out there. So we definitely appreciate everyone that's already given. And what we plan to do with the money that we get, and we're probably going to be coming out of pocket some anyway.
Which we already have. I mean,
Right,
they need good cameras and things.
We
that
bought a
people-
camera for Stacy Derrick and sent to him. We're going to be purchasing one to send to Albert Burlingame, our buddy down in Florida, who eventually we're going to get down and do a show with. We just have to get it to him. But we're going to be purchasing equipment to give to our guests. Good equipment, decent equipment. People that are out there, you know, with their cell phone trying to get decent images of Sasquatch. And the way we see it, it's only going to get, hopefully, we'll get better images of Sasquatch or whatever else is out there. Who knows? Dog man, I don't know. Trying to stay away from that one.
We have enough to deal with.
We
right
have enough
now.
to deal with, absolutely. But yeah, that's the plan. So if you guys want to help out with that, it is greatly appreciated. We are going to have some incentives for people eventually. Our field producer, Scott Owens, he has started a channel that is going to be, it's the other side of Bigfoot Odyssey. It's more of the research, and what he is going to do is take the equipment out, because that's his expertise, and show us how to use it. The best, some of the best ways to use the equipment. Certain settings and different light and audio also. So his first episode is actually going to be out as soon as we put this one out. So you can go to Bigfoot Explorer, that's Explorer, Plorer. There's no E in there, so it's just Bigfoot Explorer. I know I'm spelling again.
Did you see me mouth that?
Yeah. That redneck guy's spelling again, honey.
We do appreciate all the comments. Had some great ones, had some very supportive ones, and of course we still appreciate any of the,
Criticisms.
well, and I don't want to call them criticisms, it's just trying to help us do things a better way. So we do appreciate all that, and
We'll take all the help we can get.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, how do you feel now that your show's done?
You know, I really feel so much better I probably never would have gone back out there. And just what we've gotten out of it as a whole, you know, Scott and the field team, that's their research area now.
Yeah.
I mean, and Daniel's, he's opened it up to us, and you know, we can't thank him enough for everything he's done. And, you know, plus bringing in Bo, bringing in our video analyst Yank, and that's going to be a service. If you have images that you want processed, that put through all the different filters, that I don't know how exactly he does it, but he will either confirm or debunk your stuff. So if you have some images you want to send to us, we'll watermark them for you, send them to him, and that's what he's going to do. So what else do we have?
Well, I know someone's going to say, well, Linda wasn't in I was not in this one a lot. This was Kerry's story. I did the opening. This was something he needed to do.
You did excellent on that intro.
And I know I looked terrible doing it, but I mean, I'm not the one who does that usually. He does. So I knew what I wanted to say and how I wanted to say it. So
for a woman that will put 3 prepositions at the end of one sentence,
I don't care.
She did very well.
I don't care. He knows what I'm trying to say. That's all that matters.
But you spit out medical jargon like it's nothing.
I've done that for 30 years. That's something that comes naturally.
But I can say, it's like she wants to mow the yard, and I'm at work, and the phone's like, if it's raining, come inside. And she'll say, there's no rain for me to come in out of. Yeah, that's 3 prepositions.
He understood it completely. That's all that matters. So, but anyway, all together, it turned out nice.
Good.
And I'm glad that you're past this little hump in this recovery.
Me too.
So.
And let's not make it any longer than it already is.
Yes, it's already long enough. My butt was numb.
So we really appreciate all you guys, the comments. You know, we're going to start doing more live streams, and we'll be sending out more time on notifications for that stuff. So if there's nothing else, all right. Well, for Daniel, Bo, our field producer Scott, my beautiful wife Linda, I'm Kerry Arnold. Hope to see you guys on the next Bigfoot Odyssey.
Good night, y'all.
Hey guys, thank you for watching. Please hit that thumbs up button, and if you subscribe, don't forget to hit that notifications bell. We'll let you know when the next Bigfoot Odyssey is out.